Eleanor, a gentle and thoughtful woman in her early 70s, had always moved with grace. But recently, she began to notice small changes. Rising from bed, she instinctively reached for the nightstand. On her morning walks, she avoided the cobblestone paths she once strolled with ease. Stairs, once a daily routine, were now taken slowly, with deliberate caution. These weren't dramatic events. No falls, no injuries, just subtle adjustments, shifts in how she moved through the world. This quiet evolution often goes unnoticed, but the loss of balance rarely arrives as a sudden fall. It begins, instead, with these quiet compromises: grabbing for a chair to steady yourself, choosing to sit rather than stand, feeling unsure on a smooth tile floor. And the trouble is, these adaptations slowly train the body to disengage. Movement becomes stiffer. Muscles grow quieter. The once subconscious dance of motion and balance begins to fade. One of the first areas to weaken is the ankle. Strong, flexible ankles are essential for subtle corrections in posture and motion. Yet we rarely think about them. We wear shoes with thick soles that mute the foot's ability to feel the ground. We avoid going barefoot, and we stop doing the movements that keep feet nimble and alive. The small muscles in our feet, the ones that send messages to the brain about texture and angle, lose their tone. Signals from foot to brain get slower, and suddenly, a sidewalk crack becomes a hazard. A rug turns into an obstacle. But here's the encouraging truth: balance can be rebuilt. Like any skill, it responds to use, attention, and care. It starts with the feet. Sitting in a chair and gently rotating the ankles, lifting and spreading the toes, or shifting weight from heels to toes while standing. These simple movements wake up the nerves, awaken forgotten muscles, and remind the brain that balance is still possible. Eleanor began doing 5 minutes of foot exercises each morning while brushing her teeth. At first, her legs trembled, and she felt silly wobbling in her bathroom. But within weeks, she noticed a change. Her steps were surer. Her knees didn't lock with uncertainty. She moved more freely, and without fear. Balance is not just about staying upright. It's the foundation of movement, freedom, and confidence. It's what allows us to trust our bodies in motion. And the sooner we notice its quiet retreat, the sooner we can begin to invite it back. James had always been an active man. In his younger years, he hiked forest trails, climbed ladders without a second thought, and moved through life with an easy confidence in his body. But now, at 76, he found himself hesitating. He stopped bending to pick things up quickly. He stepped cautiously over curbs and rarely turned his head fast. It wasn't fear exactly, just a quiet instinct to play it safe. Still, deep down, James knew that something had changed. Many people believe that balance is a natural gift, something you either have or lose with age. But that's not true. Balance is like strength or flexibility, a skill shaped by practice. And when we stop challenging it, it fades. The body's muscles, tendons, and nerves thrive on input. Without movement, the brain receives fewer signals. Over time, it forgets how to respond swiftly or adapt. The good news is that this can be reversed. It surprised James to learn that standing on one foot could be so difficult. At first, he had to use a chair for support, but he practiced daily, 30 seconds on each foot, gradually reducing his reliance on the chair. Soon, he could hold the pose without touching anything. That simple act began to shift something inside him. He wasn't just training his body. He was restoring trust in himself. Another exercise he added was what he called the tightrope walk, walking in a straight line, heel to toe, as if balancing on a beam. It felt awkward at first. He wobbled and stepped off often. But he kept going. His focus sharpened. His steps became more deliberate. This wasn't just physical work. It was mental, too. He was retraining the communication between his body and his brain. One day, James stood with his eyes closed, slowly lifting his arms and moving them in arcs, challenging his inner ear and coordination. With no visual input to rely on, his body had to work harder to stabilize. It wasn't easy, but that was the point. These small challenges rebuilt the network that once worked so effortlessly, and with every practice session, he felt a little steadier and a little braver. What surprised him most wasn't the physical improvement, though that was real. It was the emotional change. With each step, each wobble overcome, came a quiet surge of confidence. That inner fear, the one that whispered, "What if you fall?" began to fade. In its place grew something powerful: belief. Balance isn't just about preventing falls. It's about reclaiming the freedom to move without hesitation. Just 5 minutes a day can open the door to a steadier, fuller life, no matter your age. Margaret never gave much thought to her footwear at home. Like many people, she slipped into her soft, well-worn slippers each morning without a second glance. They were cozy and familiar, and she liked the way they felt on her feet. But over time, she began to feel less stable. She noticed that she gripped furniture more often when walking across the room, especially on the kitchen tiles or wooden floors. Once, she nearly lost her balance stepping off a rug. It was nothing serious, just a small stumble. But it stayed with her. What she didn't realize then was how much her slippers were contributing to the problem. They had no heel support, no grip, and had grown loose with age. As she walked, they bent and folded, making her foot slide ever so slightly with each step. These tiny shifts sent unclear signals to her brain about where her body was. It's easy to overlook, but when the foot can't feel the ground or stay firmly in place, the body compensates, often by tensing up, moving slower, or relying on walls and furniture. The foot is more than just a base. It's a complex system of muscles, tendons, and nerves that constantly communicate with the brain. It reads textures, adjusts to slopes, and helps the body stay upright. When that connection weakens, through age, lack of use, or the wrong footwear, the entire balance system suffers. Surprisingly, most falls at home don't happen on stairs. They happen on flat, familiar ground, often in slippers or socks. After speaking with her physiotherapist, Margaret made a simple change. She bought a pair of supportive indoor shoes. They weren't bulky or unattractive, just comfortable. Shoes with a firm sole, non-slip grip, and light arch support. She also picked up a few pairs of socks with rubber dots on the bottom, so she could feel secure even when she didn't want to wear shoes. The difference was immediate. Her footing felt firmer, her steps more certain. She even started walking with less hesitation. At first, it felt strange to be so intentional about something as basic as footwear. But soon, Margaret understood. This wasn't about fashion or comfort. It was about safety and freedom. With steady feet, her brain relaxed. Her shoulders lowered, her walk became smoother, and she stopped bracing herself with every movement. The right footwear doesn't just protect you from slips. It activates your feet, sharpens your senses, and restores your confidence. And confidence, as Margaret learned, is the quiet strength that lets you move through your home and your life with ease. When Harold began feeling unsteady on his feet, he assumed it was just part of aging. He noticed it most in unfamiliar places, stepping into a new cafe, walking through a crowded store, even just turning around quickly at home. Sometimes, his head would spin for a moment, or the floor would feel slightly tilted. He mentioned it to his daughter once, and she asked, "Have you had your eyes and ears checked lately?" He hadn't. It had never occurred to him that balance might depend on more than just his legs. In truth, balance is a conversation between three systems: your eyes, your inner ears, and your brain. Your eyes scan the environment and tell your brain where you are. Your inner ears, the vestibular system, sense movement and orientation, helping you stay upright. And your brain puts all that information together to guide your body. When even one part of that triangle weakens, the whole system starts to wobble. Harold had worn the same pair of glasses for 10 years. His vision had slowly blurred, especially at the edges. That made navigating uneven surfaces harder. He also had trouble hearing in one ear, which sometimes made him feel disoriented, though he didn't connect the dots. A visit to the eye doctor revealed he needed a new prescription, and after a hearing test, he was fitted with a small, comfortable hearing aid. The difference was subtle, but profound. He didn't realize how much his brain had been struggling to make sense of blurred sights and muffled sounds. Another habit Harold examined was his constant reliance on touch: walls, door frames, chair backs. It made him feel safer, but it also meant his body had stopped practicing self-balance. The nervous system, like a muscle, weakens without use. By always holding on, Harold's body had slowly stopped sending its own signals. So he made a new goal: walk through one room a day without touching anything. At first, he was wobbly and unsure, but gradually, the small sensors in his joints and muscles began to wake up. His steps became more natural, his reactions quicker. He no longer needed to brace himself with every move. Taking care of balance isn't just about exercises or shoes. It's also about sharpening the senses, trusting the body, and letting it do what it was designed to do. Sometimes freedom returns not with big gestures, but with quiet adjustments. A new pair of glasses, a hearing check, or a walk without leaning. And when all parts of the system work together again, life feels steady, spacious, and full of possibility.